Okay, there we go.
All right.
Okay, well, hi everybody. My name's Maria Nakota. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns, either one. Um, I graduated from MICA, which is Maryland Institute College of Art, in 2014. I did fine art as well as graphic design. I kind of did a kind of a minor situation in graphic design. So I kind of have a nice way to bridge this gap between the visual artists who are not designers and designers. What else? I do my personal work is kind of all over the place. I do a lot of different things. I do drawing and painting, and I do graphic design, and I do tattoos. I live in Philadelphia, and that's kind of what I've been doing, bouncing back and forth between all of those things. Obviously, not tattooing during the pandemic. So been doing a lot more design work. So that's me. If y'all want to introduce yourselves on the chat or unmute yourself and introduce yourselves and maybe let us know what kind of art you do, that would be cool. We can kind of get a little icebreaker going. Anyone want to share?
I'll go.
Okay, cool.
So I'm Christy, and I work for Vision Driven, and I do administration for this series, as some of you know, because I see so many friendly faces here. But I am also beginning a career as an artist, and I'm working in illustration and surface pattern design. So pretty new to this, like since 2020. I used to be a performing artist when I was living in Philadelphia. Now I live in Georgia, and yeah, doing total pivot. But and I'm, like I told you earlier, trying to get this website thing off the ground and figure that all out. So thanks for being here.
I could go next. Hey, everybody. My name is Jahan Thomas. I'm a visual artist, educator from Philadelphia. And similar to Maria, I'm a painter, I illustrate, I do sculpture. I'm definitely like an art monster here in Philly. So I'm all over the place trying to do my best to serve my community with my art. But I don't have a website. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a website. So I look forward to learning more, meeting all of you, and thank you so much for having this. So thank you.
Cool, welcome. And I see that Melissa has introduced themselves on the chat. Clothing maker and designer and surface pattern design. Cool. You can go ahead, Alicia.
Hi, my name is Alicia Tafoya. I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas, and Edmond, Oklahoma at the moment. I'm a performance artist and theater director who recently had to create an online portfolio for some upcoming gigs, and I'm sort of really struggling. So I found this workshop and I thought it might be of use. Thank you.
Great. I'm actually in Texas right now, visiting family in Dallas. So
Texas is the best.
I feel very close to you, even though we're still a few hours away. Okay, another person introduced in the chat.
And then I can go too. I'm Martha. I'm from Christy and Melissa's little group. And I just graduated college with a bachelor's in science in apparel and textiles, and kind of like making my way in the apparel and textiles world, trying to figure out where everything goes. I made an online portfolio before, but I mean, there's always things to learn and things that I didn't do correctly the first time. So here to learn more.
Great. Okay, so we have multiple like apparel and like pattern textile design people. Educator and writer, photographer, more Philly people. Love it. Great. Anybody else want to share before we move on? Cool. Okay. Well, now that we know kind of what everyone is doing in their art practice, oh, another person, cosplayer, writer, paintings, beautiful, another well-rounded artist here. Let's see here. So obviously you want to make a website for this work. Does anybody want to share something that they feel particularly stuck on if you've started the process? Hopefully I'll be able to answer most of everybody's concerns that they already have coming in, but maybe if I have a little bit of an understanding of things that people are either stuck on or excited to learn about, that would be cool to know, and I can try to get to those as I present. Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, I think the main thing for me, I have a Shopify website and I've had it for about a year. It works pretty well. I was on Etsy for years and years. But I just felt like I wanted my own, I just wanted control. I wanted to build the email list. I wanted to have more control visually. But I think right now what I'm struggling with is marrying the children's pattern design portion with the surface pattern design. So those two, that it's all me, it all feels like me, but I want to be able to hit those two spots because they're different clients, they're different customers. The people that buy my clothes might not necessarily be sewists or quilters or people that are going to buy home decor. So it's like that, it's that weird dance of, you know, how do you hit all of the customers while making it feel cohesive? So, and I'm also a flight attendant. I apologize. I've just come in from Iceland. So if I'm not making any sense, it's because I'm completely exhausted. So
You're making
anyway,
perfect sense. You're making perfect sense to me. I'm writing notes to make sure that when we get to that kind of part of the presentation, I can remember to add some things in there.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else?
I'll go. So I have a lot of different shows that I'm trying to showcase and organize on my portfolio. I'm using, I don't know if I made a good choice in just using like the Wix website because it does all your HTML creation for you. I'm sort of thinking maybe I should have done like a WordPress. I guess it, you know, I'm dissatisfied with whether or not my page in its current form really tells the story any story, let alone the story that I want to tell, because I can't see it from a third person's perspective. I can only see it from my own. So I think I'm getting tripped up on that.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I think some people have added to the chat.
Can we drop our websites in the chat for people to look at? Or I mean, I'd love to see what people are talking about when they're talking about like your quilting website or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can definitely be in the chat. And I feel like a few people might have popped in later, but yeah, at the end we can do like a Q&A that we can really get into some of these details too, for sure, if they aren't explained. Okay, opinions on good platforms, selling online, Canva and Wix. Cool. Yeah, there's a segment that I'll be talking about website building platforms. So I am going to be talking about that a little bit. And we have, yeah, great. People adding in their URLs, Squarespace, share videos. Okay.
If I could add one more. Hi, just as like a writer, writing out all the content, but trying to figure out how to make it look good visually.
Yeah. Aesthetics, right? Okay, cool. All right, now I've taken my notes. Yeah, before we start, if anyone needs to get their water or a notepad, I'm already taking notes and I'm the one giving the presentation. So feel free to do that now. I'm gonna transition to the slideshow. So I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully this works. Y'all seeing this?
Yes. Nice.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, that should be full screen. Hopefully. All right. Just gonna change my boxes a little bit. All right. All right. Everything, y'all can see this slideshow and everyone can hear me all right? Okay, cool. Okay, website design for artists. I feel so professional with this slideshow. Okay, so I think that one of the biggest things to think about that we always jump in and try to get down to all of the details, wanting to show our work, wanting to do the about page, wanting to like have all of these moving parts that you want to put in place. But I think that the first thing that you really need to think about, journal about, talk to people about out loud is the motive, which is why you're making this site. So obviously we all want to be showing our art for whatever reason, but it normally goes a little deeper than that too. So yeah, so maybe a lot of you, it seems like, are trying to sell your art, and maybe that is the majority of the reason why you need this website, is because you're not going to be only doing markets or only selling to stores, but you just want to have that online store, and that's the main motivation. And then other people might be doing more fine art stuff, which maybe not as many of you, but there were a few painting people and stuff. Maybe it's more to like have a very professional portfolio to give to galleries, or maybe it's to share with friends and family and you just want it to be on a space that's not Instagram. So I think that there are so many different reasons, and I think that knowing that and always coming back to that when you're making the decisions on your site is really important and kind of overlooked sometimes. So then next, the motive will inform the two main elements of your site. So to me, the two main elements are style and organization. So basically, excuse me, I'm gonna get a little water. So it's a pretty pretty much like form and function kind of. Style is the aesthetic decisions that you make. This is what, the general look and feel, first impressions, before you get into reading all of the information. And it's everything from like the colors and the fonts to like how much negative space the design has, how much breathing room everything has around it. So that is very much like a designer's the first impression, and sometimes the first thing you want to get resolved. And when we go into designing the site and website builders, you're going to have to choose a template first and foremost. So that's something to consider. The second big part is organization, which is how the viewers will navigate through your site. So this is basically what pages you're going to include and how they're set up, what the hierarchy is. So they're not just a whole bunch of pages that are floating on your site, but they're organized into folders in your navigation, and it's easy for someone who has never been to your site and doesn't know your work to get to the places that they need to get to without having to try so hard. So these are kind of the two working elements. So we can first kind of dig into style a little bit more. So what colors complement my work? These are just a few questions to be asking yourself as you dig into this. So some templates already have colors in place. Most of those you can always change. So maybe you pick a template for another reason and you change the colors. But colors are very important. Maybe you're thinking about what aspects of my art do I want to emphasize. So maybe your art is very, very playful. I feel like a few people said that they do either children's illustrations or children's apparel. So maybe it's really playful and you want to continue that playful feel with the design. So that could be with the colors or with the fonts. And maybe you choose, more an illustrative font that's just more fun. What images what do the images I'll be using look like next to each other? So maybe some of you won't be using images, but I feel like a lot of you will be using images. So maybe you do very detailed work that's very busy and you don't want a lot of more busy elements coming into it. And you want to have a much cleaner, much, more space for these images that hold so much content in them. So those are some of the things to be considering when you're designing, thinking about all of the aesthetic decisions and trying to choose a template. So this is an example. I have a few examples throughout the presentation that are just friends of mine and what they've done with their websites. So this is my first example. Feel free to go to this website. I think that it would be helpful for you to navigate through it and see how it feels. So here, I feel like she has made, and right now we're just going to be thinking about the aesthetics and the style part of this website. She made the decision, or her designer made the decision, to have that black, or I guess the landing page is just the video. So she's a cinematographer, my friend Julia, and the video, she just does videos. So that was her main landing page. She wanted it to be it. And it's, again, if you go to her website, it's a compilation of clips from all the different video projects that she's worked on. And she didn't want anything else to interfere with that. So she's made the decision to keep the title and the navigation very simple so that you are paying attention to the video that's on the landing page. And that's the first impression that she wanted. She wanted all the attention to be on the video. Now, next, this is once you click on her work page in the navigation, she has this black background. And to me, I think that the black background is just great because not only is it reminiscent of when you see movies or any other video clip where you see that black screen before and after the video, it's very reminiscent of that, but it also allows all of these colors that she has going in her videos to really pop. So these are reasons, this is, you can go back to those questions in the previous slide about what's going on in your images, how do they relate to each other, and what colors will complement them. And then underneath all of these projects, she has the navigation in her website title still very clean and simple, but she's chosen a font that is a little bit more decorative for the individual projects. And this, I feel like, is just a beautiful font that it's just very contemporary, but also very elegant and I don't know what the word is, but it's very elegant and contemporary, and it works really well with her clients, who it's a lot of fashion, it's a few celebrities, it's the types of clients that she has, it fits really well. And I think that was a very intentional choice. Okay, and then next would be organization, is the second big part of these two elements. So what categories make sense for the information that you want to include? So this is when it gets into the navigation and how to organize. So Melissa, I know that you were the one who was talking about having these two distinct parts to your website, and how do you make them still be cohesive? So maybe this is one of those perfect things to think about, and your motive is to have both of these things on your website because these are both two pillars of your work. So maybe that's where on the landing page, it's just two big folders and there's nothing else, so that you are forced to make that decision at the very get-go, which side of this do I want to go to? And if the viewer is coming expecting one or the other, then they'll know exactly where to go. So that's an example of organizing your content. So yeah, so some people, this makes sense to do by medium. I think most of the artists that you'll see, their websites are categorized by medium. Even my website, which I don't even have up here, it's just marianakota.com, but I have my design work in a category, I have my drawing and painting in its own category, I have tattoos in its own category. So a lot of the times it does make sense when you're working across multiple mediums to do it by mediums. Sometimes it makes sense to do it by client. I have a lot of designers and illustrators who they organize their website by the different clients that they continually work with, because it's all design or it's all illustration. So then they say, these are my children's book illustration and this is my editorial illustration. And it's not as much by medium, but it's by client. And then once you figure out all this information and the basic categories that you want these to be in, then it's a matter of organizing those categories further. So this is taking into account how the viewer will find these categories and subcategories and what makes sense when you're on the other side of it. And I will go into this with some of the further examples. So this is another example. Again, feel free to open up your browser and go to the link so that you can navigate through his website. This is another friend, Evan, and he, I'm trying to open this so I can see it even clearer. He has kind of has it by medium, but it's a little bit more specific than that, because he has his miniatures, which are drawings and paintings and illustration, but he thinks that it's important for those miniatures to be in their own category because it is such a big part of his work. Instead of having them mixed in with his other illustration and painting, he wanted that to have its own category. So that, again, on the other hand, the viewer who might be coming to look for his miniatures don't have to find them by themselves. So it's a matter of thinking about what's important to you in your work and how the viewer is going to try to make sense of your website, if that makes sense. So if you continue on his site and you click paintings, for instance, his paintings, he didn't feel the need to have a whole description with every painting. He just has a gallery view of all of the different paintings that he finds really important that he wants to showcase on his website. So it's a very simple gallery view. But when you go to his books page, which looks like this. I'm not quite sure why there's not a book on the top right, but that's okay. When you go to that, he, instead of just having a gallery wall of images, he has it organized so that you can click through and get more information. So these, because of the format of the book, you wouldn't be able to understand the whole thing with just one image. Like his paintings, he felt very confident in having them just with one image. With these books, he wanted to be able to show more images and have a text along with it. So when you click through to one of these books, there's a long scrolling of all of the pages, photos of all of the pages of each book. And then at the end, he writes a little description and includes a link to get you to where you can buy it. Again, this is purely organization that we're looking at here. That just means that it flows very naturally, that you would look for the books, click on the book that you would like to see more information about. And then at the end of all these pictures, he has the information and a direct link to his store. So you don't, again, have to go to a store to try to find this book that you were just looking at. There's a direct link right there. This is another example of another way to organize it where, so she is both a designer and an illustrator, but instead of having these two realms of her work in two different places, she felt like they interacted really well together and were very cohesive together. So she kept them more or less in the same, on the same page. She doesn't even have multiple pages to her website. She has just a big photo gallery of all of her projects, and you can filter them at the top. So at the top here, you can see, I think she has illustration and social media, branding. So all of these, instead of being different pages, she just has them as filters because she finds that everything is cohesive enough and she doesn't feel the need to have separate pages for everything. So there's multiple ways to organize it. But again, it always comes back to that motive of what's the most important that you want to be showing people. And then other pages to consider. So, I mean, we've all been to websites. A lot of them have about pages, contact pages. Some of them have web stores and FAQ. And I love when websites have a page for their peers. So the about is, I mean, as most of you probably know, has your bio. This is also where you can put an artist statement and also your resume. If you're applying to residencies and trying, a lot of galleries are going to be looking at this, then you might want that CV or resume to be prominent. Maybe that goes before, maybe it's a button that goes before your bio even. Organizing it is, you know, the hierarchy is something to always consider on what is most important for your motive. Right, so bio, photo, artist statement, press and publications can also go on your about, can also be in a separate navigation. Contact, another very common page so that people can email you. It's always great to have that email linked, which we can get into a little bit more later. And there's also, you know, maybe a lot of people are going to be contacting you and you have specific questions that you want to ask people before they even email you. So maybe you do consultations, or for me, when I do tattoos, I have a list of questions, you know, what size are you thinking? What, you know, have you thought about what size and placement and all of those types of questions? Sometimes I just prefer people to just have those questions already. So you can fill out, you can create a form for that in a lot of these website builders. So all of these things are just to be considered for organizing and hierarchy when you're creating all of the different pages on your website. The peers, I see the Christy asked the question. I love this because it obviously we're all showcasing our work, but I love to have my friends I have a little friends page where I just put all my friends who are doing all the different art things. You know, some people have their own store, some people are doing design work, and I've seen multiple people doing it now, especially in the creative field, where you just kind of show like what are the other people in my field doing, and I think it's nice. Just another thing to consider when you're making your site, and again, what's important to you.
That just lifting other artists up and showing like here are other people doing great things. Like
Yeah.
it's not a competition.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
For everybody, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So those are some pages that I feel like are I hope that the peers one gets more common, but the others are definitely common. Thinking about FAQ also makes it easier for you and what questions maybe you get emailed all the time. FAQ is a great page for that. I have a friend who does graphite drawings. We'll be looking at her site next, actually. And she has a great FAQ for like just tattoos, because everyone wants to know if she does tattoo designs. And she's like, I'm a graphite artist. Like, and she gets so many people who ask that via email. She's like, I'm gonna nip this in the bud. I'm gonna put a whole page on my website for tattoo FAQ, because you know that's something that she's experienced. It's important enough to have its own page. Okay. So this is my friend Zoe's website, and I just think this is such a great website. So this, I would love if y'all would go to this website and take a good look at it. I think I'm going to time us and give us 5 minutes to really go through and think about what the site is doing well. She has a lot of information, and it could have been a huge mess that was really hard to navigate if it wasn't done in a great way. So it is 6:36. So at around 6:41, I guess, I will come back to y'all. I'm gonna take a little bathroom break, and I would love to hear what everyone has to think about it after hearing all of those different elements to be considering. Come on, puppy. Come on, puppy. Come on, puppy. Come on. Chloe, come on. Come on, Chloe. Chloe. Okay. Does everyone feel like they had enough time to really take a good look at her website? Okay, so in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself, feel free. Again, we're kind of a small group, so we can just jump in and I can hopefully y'all can see her website on my screen now, and I can kind of follow what y'all have to say. Someone found a broken link.
I'll start real quick. I really appreciated how first of all, her work is just banging, like super, super wonderful. But then also I really appreciated how she categorizes her work, maybe through her inspiration. So because I work in series as well. So it gives me, an idea to categorize things like that than what I thought maybe through Medium. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate the video. So just like different, like even though you may not be like a videographer or something like that, just having different ways to learn more about you through like video or yeah, so I appreciate that.
Cool. Yeah, I know that video is really great. And yeah, she's someone who works 99% in graphite. So breaking up and organizing all of her work, she decided to, instead of doing by medium, which a lot of us do, to do it based on her most of it is places and her series. Yeah. I like how her opening page is both personal, showing her, and an introduction to the work and the scale it can be. Absolutely. What a great, it's a perfect first impression photo that, it shows the scale, it shows her working, it's very personable, and just clues you into exactly what's happening with these drawings versus just seeing them, so small. I completely agree with that.
Something else I really appreciated at the bottom of the homepage, if you scroll all the way down, is that she had different links for how to shop for her stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's
shop
true.
Gallery, shop from the store.
Yes, and having those links multiple places is just great. It just makes it easier for people to navigate your store or your site. And even I feel like when you click through to some of the individual projects, I think when you come to the end, can you go to the next project? I don't remember. Oh, maybe not. But sometimes you can just choose, once you've seen that project, you can click next to the next project, and that's nice too. But she has so much work. I'm like, how did she start to organize it, And it's, I think she did a really good job. Anybody else have any specific things they want to share?
I think that this kind of shows off how important it is to get good photographs of your work, because I think this whole website could have been totally bad if she had not these fantastic images, or just making sure they're clean images, the images that were just straight on of the piece, they were very clean, almost looked like they photoshopped out anything that was not supposed to be there. So just making sure you have clean photos that don't take away from any of your work.
Right.
So,
yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think that is why she made the choice to have her background be white, and there's no color really. It's just black and white. And that, well, there's some photos that are color photos, but as far as the font and the background colors, because she wants you to focus on the detail of those hyper realistic drawings and not have anything else interfere, and give them space because they are so busy and there's so much detail to look at. The white background with the white color back, like the white background of the paper and then the white background of the website, really gives you time to look at the drawing and the marks. I completely agree with that. And that was a choice, it wasn't just the template was white. I like how it's organized, the videos and the tattoos FAQ. She's so talented that people want her work on their skin. Oh yeah, I know. I like the last line in that section. If you have such a strong connection with an image that you want to put it on your body and the artist who made that image is living and working, please help that artist out. Yep. She says great things, for sure.
I decided to check out the mobile site because you were showing the computer site on your screen. So I just checked it out on my phone, and it was interesting to see the difference between the flow and layout from the mobile to the desktop version.
That's a great thing to take note of as well, because that is something that when you start making your websites, something to check and keep in mind for sure. And I'll also go into that a little bit when we talk about the different website builders that are out there. Yeah, and this is the FAQ. Very clear headings to know what the questions are and what the answers are. That's also something that's very nice, because maybe someone has one of these questions and you don't want to have to take a lot of effort to find the specific question that you have. You don't want to have to read the entire thing to find that question. But these headings are clear and big so that when I scroll, I can find exactly what information I'm looking for right away. That's another hierarchy in organization and in style. The style being that it's a larger font and a different color. I'm still just looking through now. And I do know, I asked all of these people if I could use their websites for this presentation. And she said that she made this entire thing in Squarespace. Just as a thing to keep in mind, that videos can be posted embedded like this in Squarespace, which I think they can in almost all of them, but this is what it looks like in Squarespace. Yeah. Any last feelings? I'm making sure that I hit all of my points as I'm looking through the website. This is a good example of, she wanted her CV to be just right there embedded. It's not a link that you have to follow. She has the press on her about. It's not in a separate, she didn't want it in a separate page, but everything is here. Everything has links. And yeah, all of her exhibitions and awards are just all right there, without having to go any further to get a PDF that's on a Google Drive or anything like that. And sometimes you don't want, maybe that's not necessary, but for her and the way that she works and the fact that she does want her work in galleries, then she decided to put that on there. And it's all just on the about page. But some people will put it in their navigation as well. All right, cool. Well, let me go back to the presentation. Here we go. Okay, next we'll be talking about different website building sites. But I did have, we kind of took a little break when we were looking at Zoe's website, but I did have in here for us to take a little 5-minute break. So we can come back at 7 to do the second half, or maybe a little bit before 7. That's kind of a while.
Hey, Maria.
Yep.
Would you mind pausing the recording while we take a break?
No, not at all. I'm going to stop my screen share as well for now. All right. Everyone back? All refreshed?
Yep.
Bathroom break complete? Okay. Let me share my screen again. All right. Is that up and working? Okay. Okay. So website builders. I have chosen 4 of the main website builders that I think that most people use, especially creatives. And that is Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, and Cargo. Also known as Cargo Collective, but I think that they're just doing Cargo now. So this is a very, very brief, quick little chart that compares those 4 together. So Squarespace, and I have the most experience with Squarespace, and we'll be doing a Squarespace kind of tutorial. I'm just going to share my screen while I go through and kind of make a dummy site, just as because it is one of the sites that's a little bit harder to navigate. So Squarespace has very elegant templates. There's not a huge amount for you to sift through, but they all are pretty solid and nice looking. There are some that are more contemporary and some that are more traditional. Another pro is that you can change the template at any time. So once you have all of your information up on your Squarespace, maybe in a year, say you decide that you want to change the template to be something maybe more modern or more trendy for a year from now or something, you are able to change that template anytime and all of the information will be transferred. So that's a huge plus for Squarespace. Cons, a lot of people say that there's a learning curve, and there is, and they've changed their like back end interface a few times in the past couple years, which has made it a little bit harder. But once you get a hang of it, you know, there's a learning curve. But if you wanted something that was super, super easy, maybe Squarespace isn't the one for you. Limited flexibility, I put it down as a con, but sometimes it's a pro, especially for people who are overwhelmed with too many options. That means that it's kind of like a fail safe where you can't really mess it up a lot. Like it has a lot of presets, even when you're adding the different parts and different sections to a page, they're still within a template form. You can't tweak it to the nth degree, which again is kind of good and bad. Sometimes I get frustrated when I want to do something really specific as like a designer. But for the most part, it does everything you need it to do, and is kind of, yeah, like a, I don't know what the word is for it, but like a fail safe. So you can't really mess it up. And I have all the pricing options here, which are in the same camp. I think they're all kind of similar, but Wix and Weebly do have free versions, which Squarespace and Cargo do not, which is very good to note. Wix has a lot of templates for you to look through. And a lot of people just say it's really easy to use compared to some of the others. This one, though, it's a con. Once you have picked a template and put all of your information, all of your images, all of your content into it, you cannot change your template without losing all of the work that you've done, all of your pages, organization, all the organization for your navigation, everything will not transfer if you change the template. So that's something that is a con, but also just something, it's not necessarily a reason not to use Wix, but something to know at the beginning when you use it. It does have that free version. All 4 of them have a e-commerce edition. Normally it's for more money, but if you wanted to have a store, you can do it for all 4 of these different builders. Weebly is another one that people say is really easy to use. It has a very generous free plan. So what I mean by that is for these free plans, they don't give you all of the options, right? And then you pay if you want to have more options for your website. Sometimes that looks like how many pages you're allowed to have on your site. So normally, and like I said, I have way more experience with Squarespace than I do with Wix, Weebly, and Cargo, to be honest. I have worked in Cargo a little bit, but so I don't know the exact, what's allowed in which version, but Weebly is known to have more options in the free version. Now, it does not, the free version on both Wix and Weebly do not allow you to have your own domain. So it will be weebly.com/your name or whatever store you want it to be. So it's not as simple as telling people, oh yeah, just go to like marianakota.com. It'll normally be have their site first in the URL. So that's something to keep in mind. But even though there's no domain on Weebly, they give you more options than some of the other free sites that are more bare bones. And like I said, that's like limiting how many pages, or maybe it's like how many color templates you're allowed to have, things of that nature. And I don't think I'm positive that neither of these free versions allow you to sell things online. That would be another upgrade to a paid version. Weebly's templates are designed well. They're designed fine. They're on the simple end, and you don't have as many options really. They're just kind of again, it's just more for, I think the Weebly is like very bare bones, very much for beginners, very much for someone who is fine with having a very simple site that maybe isn't like super unique and all of the different options. So definitely a great option, but the templates are maybe not as just not as many options for like more unique options. But that one also does have that free version. And then Cargo is actually, it's a really funny one because I didn't even realize that it had this huge update until I started putting together this presentation. Cargo Collective is what everyone used when I was in high school. And it was kind of like right after Tumblr. And it was free at that point. And so it's kind of what everyone used. And then I feel like when I went to college and people were trying to be more professional, people started using more things like Squarespace and Wix. But it has this new upgrade, and it's specifically for creatives, which is why it was always enticing and still is. And it has all these modern designs that are very trendy. And I also put this as a con because they all are in this very similar family of what is trending in graphic design right now. And that's not to say that all of them are bad or will not be timeless. They're very beautiful, actually. but it's a very specific aesthetic. And if you go to their website, which is just cargo.com, I believe, you'll be able to see that just general aesthetic that they have. Again, not always a bad thing, just not always a good thing if you're not looking for that vibe. But that one also, and I'm looking at this pricing, and I think Squarespace does go up more than $20 for, I'm not positive, but I think that the business commerce version of Squarespace might be a little bit more expensive, but I feel like Cargo was kind of a middle of the road pricing option. And these, I would encourage you to look at these pricing options more on your own, because some of them are like a little bit less if they're billed annually versus billed monthly, which always will get you. You know, sometimes they're advertising for the annual price, but they say it's that much per month. So just be aware of that. They're all, you know, they always try to get you, but that's like the very basic pricing, you know, give you an idea of how they're priced. Other notable builders. So Shopify, I know that someone mentioned Shopify. Shopify, I think, is really great for if you know for a fact that, again, this goes back to the motive that your main priority is selling your work and you have a lot of it. So some of the other options, the Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, and Cargo, all of them have the option for e-commerce. Some of them within the e-commerce still have levels to them and still have like a limit to how many things you can sell, what controls you have over your store. So some of that is, you can have a customized confirmation email of the purchase versus you have to use this template. So there's a lot of things to consider in that, but Shopify is very much for people who are selling their work, and definitely the ones that have a lot of things to sell. That will give you the most. It is going to be expensive. I think it's a little bit more expensive, which evens out if that is your sole purpose of having the website, and if you have a lot of things to sell. But I would look at the pricing. Even if you know that the main thing you want to do with your website is sell, if you're only selling a few things that don't require much customization, which is, maybe you have a shirt that's in multiple sizes and multiple colors, and you want all the different shipping options, and you want to be able to use all of the different checkout options like Stripe and Square. If you have all of those things, Shopify might be better for you because it is for selling your work. If you have prints like I do, I have a few prints. I have like 2 different screen prints and a couple stickers. The Squarespace e-commerce just works like totally fine. So that's just something to consider. WebNode, I don't know anything about, honestly. I don't know really anything about it, but I do know that it makes it easy to do multilingual websites. So if that is something that's important to you, to have a multilingual site, that is something to look into. And I thought that was important to include. Pixpa is supposed to be really good for photographers. I think there might have been one person who said that they do photography. I don't know if it was just photography, but Pixpa is supposed to be good for photographers to have their portfolio, especially because it includes client proofing galleries. So that's basically where, say you had a client and you did a engagement wedding shoot for them, you can give them, the website has in there a gallery option that you can send, like a private gallery that you can send to the client to choose which pictures they want, for instance. So that's very specific to photographers, but just something to note because for a lot of people that's very important. Does anybody have any questions about that? We can open this one up to questions for specific website builder questions about these general things before because I'm about to continue on to talk just about Squarespace because it's what I know best and I can very easily go through some of the basics there. Oh, WordPress. Right, WordPress. I did have that written down. So WordPress is a little tricky. I think it's really, really great for people who like designing and have very specific needs, but it requires more knowledge of design and coding, actually. So while they do have some templates, it won't be as user-friendly. It'll be more for people who have a background in design or are willing to do a little extra work to add extra coding and do some manual changes to the site. Does that make sense? Or answer your question, Allison? I think it was like a lot of people used to WordPress for a few years there was the go-to, and I think that they kind of went into a more very more specific realm where people who wanted to customize even further could do that. But now I think for people who just want a simple template to follow, these other ones are actually better for that. Any other specific Squarespace, Wix, Weebly? Well, Squarespace I'm about to go into, but all right. Oh, Melissa says, I love my Shopify website, but I had to learn HTML to change specific things. I knew that selling on an e-commerce platform was what I wanted. Yeah, and I think that that's great. And again, I don't have a huge experience in Shopify versus some of these others, but I've heard good things about, if that is you're using it as a business. It's great. Used it out of the box free template, but changing it was a process. Yeah. And that's why I didn't include it in these top 4, because if you're also trying to have it with a portfolio of your work as well alongside this portfolio, it doesn't have as many great pretty things. It's very business, it does the job of selling, but it's not as much for creating this pretty portfolio of your work. Cool. Agreed. Glad to know.
Just real, the thing, the question I'm trying to answer for myself. Hi, Puppy. Our website at Vision Driven is run through Weebly, so it's what I know. And it's like the first platform that I've gotten to know just as an administrator here, and so I'm doing updates. I didn't design the website, but I update it regularly, so I know how it works. And I'm trying to figure out if it's worth going through the learning curve on another platform, or if I should just go with what I already know.
And you said it's Weebly?
Yeah, our website is Weebly.
Cool. I mean, I really think that all 4 of these, Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, and Cargo, you can't really go wrong with it. It's just what you're feeling. And I do think price is a good place to start for where to know where you're at. And if that's not really an issue, then going into do you feel like your work is going to want something that's more tailored to the work, or do you think a simple site is going to do it justice? Because what did you said that you do textile design and apparel?
Yeah, no, not apparel specifically, but illustration and
Okay.
pattern design. So to that end, I don't think like the template itself needs to be
Right.
super in depth. And you know what? I mean, you can look at our website. I mean, the way you can put photos and galleries and, you know, have different, build out different pages, you know, it's pretty user friendly, and it does have an e-commerce option.
Then I say it's not worth going through another learning, like the learning curve of a different thing. Because then it's also hard to switch from one to the other, because then you're just expecting it to be a certain way versus just coming into
Right.
it fresh.
And then I'm wondering down the line if I'm getting, you know, if the store aspect becomes more of a thing, because I'm looking for something that's both a store and an online portfolio, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know, potentially also like a blog, or you know, like it wants to be a bunch of, not a bunch of different things, but not just a store.
Yeah. And I think that Weebly would do great with that. I honestly, I think that all of these, I don't think that Cargo has a great blog situation. I think Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly all have strong blog options, e-commerce, and just portfolio site options. You can't really go wrong.
Is it just the free plan that doesn't have a domain included, or do none of them have?
I think it depends. I know for a fact that Squarespace has the domain included, and I think that that's part of why they don't have a free version.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah. Okay, and so the next thing that I was going to do, we already went through this, was to go through, Wix has a paid domain option. Okay, cool. So Wix also, the free Wix doesn't have it, but the next one up probably has you can do the domain right through them without having to go through like GoDaddy or something. Most of them do now have the domain option. It's a good question though. Okay, so next I was gonna go through Squarespace because it does seem to be one of the trickier ones, but also one that people gravitate toward. Is anyone considering doing Squarespace? I'll do a slightly more in-depth version of it if y'all are interested. If not, I can do kind of the bare bones. What's everyone feeling about Squarespace?
I mean, it's the other thing that I was considering.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but if nobody else is interested, we don't have to spend a lot of time just for me.
Always happy to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll do a little brief thing so that if anyone's interested, they'll have a little bit of an idea what they're getting themselves into. All right. So all right. So this should be, I'm closing the chat so that I can see better, but y'all feel free to chat, but if I don't get to you, that's why. Okay, so this is the back end of what Squarespace looks like, and I just made a dummy site. So this is just a template in its raw form. I chose a template. Actually, this is I'll come back to, oops. I'll come back to this. So when you first start a Squarespace, it'll ask you to choose a template. And it's great because it does have this portfolio option that you can click that helps you filter. And I'm sure the others do too, but that's what I did. I just clicked portfolio and then scrolled through the different template matches here and just chose one at random. So that's how I got to here. And this is the background, the back end of things. So this is your site and what it will look like. Here you can make it full screen so you can see what it would look like. And then if you minimize it, you can also see what the mobile version will look like. So that again comes back to always checking to make sure that it's responsive. And that was, I think I overlooked that, but Wix, I think every once in a while people say that there are glitches in the mobile site. Something to consider. So it does it automatically. These website builders automatically have the mobile version. And what that is just when the site can tell that the width of whatever screen it's being viewed on is a certain dimension, it'll shrink down and it will change all of the settings itself. It's called responsive. So it responds to the width, the amount of pixels and the width, and formats everything differently for you, which is cool. But that's what these are. So you can see what it will look like as a mobile or as a whole website. So basically over here, you have your main doc, which will have pages, design, commerce, marketing, scheduling, which is new, analytics, profiles, settings, and help. So the main parts of this that you'll use is pages, design, commerce if you're selling, and then sometimes you'll get into the settings. And honestly, I don't really use many of the others. Pages is the pages is like when I was talking about the two main elements of your site being style and organization, the pages is the organization part of that. And then the design here is the style part of it. So they're kind of put into these two categories, similar to how I was talking about designing your website at the beginning of this. So the pages you'll see here have this main navigation, new folder, which will look like, let me make this bigger so that you can see the navigation. There we go. Okay, so here you see this new folder, and that's what this is. And it's a drop down in the navigation. So these are where all of your pages will be, and you can move them around once you make your pages. So that's again making your categories, which would be the pages, and then how to organize those you can do as a secondary action, which is just moving them around to make sure that they, maybe they're a subfolder or any of that. Now, this is where you go to add a page, and they give you templates within the template essentially. So you can do a blank page where you would build it from scratch, but they also have page layouts here, which is really great because they pretty much do all the designing for you. So these are just general layouts, and right now this is kind of a home page that has a plethora of little tidbits that are all on one page. But say I wanted to do a very specific gallery of all of just paintings, then I can choose from all of these different preset layouts. So it's pretty cool because you can do it in two ways where, like this, where it's already designed for you, or there's a separate way, which I'll show you. If you do a blank page, you can create those sections specific to what you want. So here's an example of a gallery. Let's say I want bigger images because my work is really detailed. Then maybe I want to choose this one instead of say this one, because maybe my work, I just need bigger images for the detail. So I can choose that, and it will make it with just fake pictures and fake text. And then you just go in and change it to be what you want it to be. So that would be here, edit, and then maybe up here I say paintings. Oops, paintings. And here it all begins with paint. And then in this section, you go here and you add what images are your own images. So that's a way to make, that's how there's template layouts within each template. So then you have a page and it's already all worked out for you. Now, if you wanted to make another page that's blank, you start from scratch, you edit the page, and the way that you edit it is by adding sections that add vertically. So I'll add a section, and instead of being full page layouts like we just saw, we're gonna see little teeny sections. So maybe I want to start off this page with a quote with an image behind it. And then underneath that, I want to add another section that has text, that has more text. That explains maybe that quote. And then maybe I want to have detail shots of the picture that's above it. And I look at all of these different galleries and I'm fine with them being more pictures that are smaller. So now when I say done, so that gives you the layout, and you go then with these individual sections, you have different settings. You can change the pictures, you can change the colors of just the individual section. So now I've just created my own page that has this text with an image behind it. And when you keep scrolling, then I have my other paragraph of text. And I keep scrolling, and then I have a gallery of images. And I created that by adding 3 different sections that I wanted to add. So that's how you can make very specific pages that might not be already in the template layout when I made a new page from here. Does that make sense?
That's actually really helpful to see you go through that.
It's pretty intuitive once you get the hang of it, but I do understand that it takes a second. But I think that's why having just someone explain it to you from the get-go kind of helps. But I do enjoy making websites in Squarespace, I have to say. So then oh, I have another message. Okay, good. So that is a very rough version of how you make the pages. And this is, again, this is the organization part of the website. This is all of the text, all of the images you want to include, what order you want them in. Say you want this blank page to be at the end of the navigation. You don't want it to be first, but you want it to be at the end. You just drag this down, and it will move it down over here. So again, just organizing and thinking about all of the information that you want and how you want it to be received from the viewer. So that is the bare bones to the pages. Now, if you go back to the home, now there is the design. So site styles, this is where things can get tricky. Site styles are basically, I'll click on site styles. They have the fonts, colors, animations that are just general, will be applicable to the entire site. So that would be global site styles over here. So this is where you can change all of my headings, which are all a certain size. Maybe I don't want it to be this font, but I want to browse and choose something a little bit more illustrative. Let's see here. What's a fun one? You have a lot of fonts. So that changes all, that globally changes on the entire site what your headings look like, which is basically all of the text that goes up to a certain size. I don't know, let's see if any of these pages have any smaller text. So right now we're just doing global. Let me go back, save changes. So now I can, when I'm back at the home design page, I can choose which page I might want to see as I change the global settings. So you can see how it affects certain pages. So I was looking at, I think, gallery 4, or maybe I was looking at this. Maybe I have to go all the way home. I was looking at blank, contact, trying to find a page that might have, there we go. This will be, this text is not heading text. So now we can see what that looks like when we change it in the design section. So now we can see these paragraph text. Let's say that we want to keep that font, but let's say we just want to make it bold. You see how that changed all of this text? So there's basically these two types of text that it's changing. But that's getting into very specifics. But this is where all of those aesthetic style elements, as I was talking to at the very beginning of the presentation, come into play. It's with site styles, and that is just what everything looks like, as well as colors, which is here. So everything's very organized. It takes a second to like understand what everything is. Each section has its own color settings. So here you can see these boxes popped up to show what the different color setting is for each of these sections. So you can then go into each color setting and change those specifics for each. Trying to think of what the best word to, I guess they're themes. It's like different color palettes for these: lightest 1, lightest 2, light 1, light 2, bright 1, bright 2. These are all sets of colors, and you can apply that to any section. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a great job at describing this, but oh, is there a tool that could help you ensure that your site is accessible? Unfortunately, I haven't really found that. I've just done Googling myself to see what general font size makes sense for websites. And there are different sites that you can do color tests where you plug in the different color code for 2 colors, and it'll tell you if with the right font size and the 2 colors, if it's legible, if it's accessible. So that would, I think most of the time, have to be a separate Google search. So anyway, so these are different site styles. This is where all of the colors, the spacing in between everything, the fonts is done in its separate, okay, couldn't save information, in its own separate workspace. Okay, now my computer is getting slow, but I'm going to go back because I want us to have enough time for your specific questions for the Q&A time, because I mean, I could talk about Squarespace endlessly, but I just wanted to give the main overview of what it looks like, which is the pages is the organization, the design is all the colors and everything, and then commerce is its own section. So everything is very categorized on the back end. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this. Okay, last thoughts before we open it up to Q&A, because I really do want to have enough time for that. That will just get everything slowed down a little bit. We just got into a lot of details about Squarespace, which can be very heavy, but kind of zooming out to the broader lessons. These are my last thoughts. Gather inspiration. Before I do anything that's design, I always look at what everyone else is doing. And it's not to compare to it or to make sure you're doing the exact same thing everyone else is doing, but it's giving you a sense of what individual things you like and what individual things you don't like, what individual things are very similar to what you need to do, practically speaking, and what things, oh, my dog just came in. What things, like what functions do you need on your site that maybe someone else also has? So I just need to take a few hours even to gather inspiration, to look on people's websites, to see what they're doing that I feel like is applicable to me, and things, and even just aesthetically things that I like and don't like. And that will give you a much clearer sense when you start making decisions for yourself. It always clears my head. 2 is pay attention to detail. So this is just going through everything with a fine-tooth comb at the end and making sure it'll just make the site look better at the end. Making sure that the buttons are clicking to the correct spot, linking things instead of having a URL or an email that's static. So that just means when you click on it, it'll go to a new page. Looking at all of those details is very important and can go a long way. And that also applies for when you're gathering inspiration, to see what are those little details that you might have overlooked in yours, but you really appreciated in somebody else's site. 3 is take advantage of Google. When you're using these website builders, there are so many tutorial sites out there, and a lot of them have their own tutorial like help links and help centers online. So slowing down and just Googling specific things versus getting frustrated with trying to figure it out yourself is really helpful. And I still do that. I still run into specific things when I'm making someone a Squarespace site and they want something that I've never done before. I will still just Google it. And normally there's someone out there who's teaching it on a YouTube video, just how to step by step do this little change that maybe would have driven you insane trying to figure out where that little setting was. Just always remember you can Google, and there are so many people doing these websites with the same exact website builder. And 4, I put phone a friend. I always need to run things by people, especially people who don't also do art. So that would just look like, as soon as you get your site to a point where you're able to make it public, just give it to a whole bunch of friends for them to navigate without you being there, without you, saying, click on this, click on that, and just see where a link might be broken. Maybe it looks like a button, but it doesn't go to a page. Maybe it's just something technical that didn't work. Maybe it's a typo. And that always makes me feel so much more confident, and I can't catch all of the little things. And, obviously we know our work, we know the logic behind it when we're making the website. So it's good to have somebody else just come at it with clean eyes and try to navigate, try to be like, okay, if I was coming here from Maybe you were selling something at a market and you just told someone, here's my website, or you gave them your business card. If that person went to go look up this specific item that y'all had been talking about, would they be able to easily find it? So those are my last hot tips for things to always remember when you're working on a website. And to always, I didn't put this on there, but always, go back to that motive and why you're making this site and what is the most important things to prioritize. And that's about it. I will stop my screen share now because we are at Q&A. All right. So we do have about 15 minutes for Q&A. And again, this is totally great if anyone wants to have questions over chat, or just unmute yourself and feel free to talk since there's only a few of us here. I'm happy to answer specifics.
It was really helpful to see you kind of step through that Squarespace page builder, because I've been in there a couple of times and I don't know, I guess I didn't get that far. I got overwhelmed by templates.
Yeah.
Like all the choices.
There's a lot of templates to choose.
I don't know which one is right for me.
Yeah.
I really do like how they have the different, like, well, what do you want to do? And you select, I want a portfolio and a blog and a store. It's like, okay, go look at these. And then it was still hard to choose. But hearing that they'll let you change the template without losing information is also helpful. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really good to know. And yeah, choosing templates is hard because on one hand, it goes back to the style and organization. One template might be perfectly organized for you and you won't have to manually change some of the page layouts, but maybe it's not the right aesthetic that you want. So you're going to have to be going in and changing colors and fonts. So sometimes it's great to find the template that has both of those things already. And sometimes that's impossible. And maybe you are like, I'm more comfortable picking fonts and colors. So I'll opt for one that is already organized in the way that I want it to be organized, and I'll just change the fonts and colors. Or the other way around, where I can move text around all day, but I don't trust myself with colors and fonts. So those are things to keep in mind when choosing templates too. Yeah.
I had another question. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions about how many tabs or pages is too many, or because for example, I want my space to have examples of my community art practice along with my personal art portfolio and things like that. So or what skills I have to offer, because I also do art education and things in different spaces. So do you have any suggestions on too many tabs, or yeah?
I definitely think there is a limit. There is too many that will overwhelm the viewer to figure out what information they want and where they would find that. So I do think that consolidating is good. And I don't think that means that you have to take out information. It's just, again, how you organize it. So maybe I was trying to remember the examples. You have community art projects. Maybe that deserves its own folder or its own tab. Maybe your about has multiple pages underneath it. So instead of having your, I'm trying to remember what other things you were saying, not awards.
just like the skills.
Yeah, skills.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe you have this about page that you want it to be not necessarily a resume, not necessarily just a bio, but you want to merge the two. And maybe you do have a few different pages that are underneath the about. But when I'm thinking about, okay, so what are their skill set? What do they specialize in? Then maybe I still go to the about to try to figure that out. And then I say, oh, hey, look, there's a drop down and there's a skills button right there. So when I say consolidate, it's less about taking things out and more fitting them into folders that make sense, and is easily digestible. But I do think that it can be very overwhelming for me to find a site that has 1 billion pages. I don't know if there's like a number that's the limit or anything like that. I think that I think I've reached my limit of the amount of pages on my site. I think I have like 5 or something.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and with Squarespace, and I'm sure like Wix and Weebly have similar things. You can also just do sections within the about that are distinctly different. Maybe the background color is different. So visually there's a cue that we're going into a little bit of a different territory, but it's still all under the about. So things like that are a more stylistic approach to how to organize that information so it doesn't just look like a whole bunch of text, and it kind of breaks it up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Let me see if there's anything in the chat. No more questions in the chat. Melissa, do you feel like I answered your question about breaking up your kind of 2 big parts that are different, but you wanted it to be in the same site?
Yeah, I think I need to really just dive in more on that from a motive standpoint. Not even a motive, like I know what I want to sell, but how do I reach those 2 distinct clientele in the same arena without getting things confused? Because the clothing part is all handmade by me and the design part is not. It's my design, but it's fulfilled by, either a drop ship or a third party production partner, that sort of thing. So it's trying to, it's such a tough balance because you're trying to like keep that handmade aspect with, this is me, but this is me too.
Yeah, and I also completely understand being like, I just don't want 2 different websites though. I
don't, because it's too much to maintain. Yeah, I'm only one person and I don't have like an army of people to do the social media, to do the, it's just me.
Yeah. Well, and what I say to that is make it very clear the 2 sections that your website has from the get-go, from the landing page. So that it's just very clear which direction that they want to go. And if they want to change directions, they go back to your homepage. And they can click on your name or your logo and go back to the homepage where they make that very clear decision from the get-go. And with the different style options, and you were saying you have Shopify, correct?
I do.
Okay, so I don't know exactly the Shopify, but maybe the background color is different for each one so that visually you just know which one you're in, you don't get confused, and it just creates just a little bit more separation where maybe all the fonts, all of the font styles are the same throughout the whole thing, the basic layout is the same throughout the whole thing, but you have one indicator that you're in this part of the store or this part of the store. That just it helps. Or even the indicator of in your navigation, maybe you just have the 2 parts to your navigation, and maybe you make sure in the styling that the difference is clear. Some of them don't have, maybe they have a small underline or something, maybe it's underlined and a different color and bold, and I think that all of those little things just are to indicate that you're in one side or the other will help tremendously.
Yeah, I think I really need to clarify that for myself and for my customers, and because this is all new too. So it's like, okay, this is like, oh, the handmade part, but the, the not handmade part, and how do I make that cohesive? But yeah, no, you've given me a lot to think about, and I totally appreciate all the information. So thank you
Great.
very much. Yeah.
I'm glad. Anybody else have specific questions? Okay.
I think we're good. I was so helpful, Maria. Thank you for coming on tonight and walking through this with
Absolutely.
us. Yeah, I learned so much, and I feel closer. Making choices. Still have some stuff to think about, but it was helpful to see everything. For those of you who are still left, I will be following up with you this week. I will send you out. Maria, if it's okay, usually we like to share the slides that you present with the people who were here at the workshop, and those will only go out to the people who were here tonight. And we will also share the recording once it gets uploaded, and a short survey if y'all have time. It always helps us figure it out. We're taking a break for the summer, so we'll be back in September with new stuff, so stay tuned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks so
everyone.
much, everyone. Stay in touch. Thank you.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
Have a good night.